Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to be taking a look at Electronic Gaming Monthly, issue 14 from September 1990. And that's what I want to talk about on today's episode. So roll that intro.
Welcome to another episode of Retro Read Through, and this time I'm going to be talking about Electronic Gaming Monthly issue 14 from September 1990. Now, the reason I picked this issue is because there's some incredibly cool information in here that I want to show you guys and talk about. These episodes are going to be pretty long, so I want to say that right off the bat. But I feel like this type of stuff just isn't around anymore. Physical media, especially magazines, is almost non-existent. So I definitely want to show you guys, and let's take a look because there's some really cool stuff in here. So let me get this open real quick. So like I said in the intro, we're going to take a look at EGM number 14. Now, if you would have gotten this back in the day, this actually would have been on, newsstands August 1990, because the issues were always a month ahead. So if it was August, this issue was going to be September. And that's just how they did it back then. So when you look at the front page here, Mega Man 3 is definitely the cover story game. And there's a reason for it. And in the magazine, it actually has a 2-page spread, which at this time, 2-page spreads were extremely rare. Paying for that type of landscape in a magazine had to be very expensive. So we'll definitely go over that. I just want to emphasize before we get into it how cool 1990 was for video games. If you look at the top here, it says Nintendo, Sega, TurboGrafx, Genesis, Game Boy, Lynx, arcades, and Japanese. These were all the different things that were out at the same time. Nowadays you got, pretty much 3 systems: the Xbox, the PlayStation, and the Switch. So having all this stuff crammed in at one time was just incredible. And it was such a cool time to be a gamer. So on the front cover here, obviously Mega Man 3 is the front cover story. And there's a little bit of info on here that we'll go over. So it says EGM reviews over 25 brand new games. Now, back in the day, we didn't have internet. We didn't have, every review at the touch of our finger when we looked it up on the phone. So having something like this where you could just flip through when you were at the store with your mom and look at the reviews, because it would give you an idea of what games were actually pretty good. So let's get into the first page. And if you look down here, they were $3.95 in the U.S., $4.95 in Canada. A little while after this, they moved them to $4.95 in the U.S. I remember game magazines staying $5 for quite a while. But earlier on, they were actually $3.95 at the newsstand. So as you open it up to the first page, you get an ad for Tengen. And this is a double-page ad. So this wasn't cheap. And these games right here, I didn't play RBI Baseball very much, but I did play Clax. And it's a decent game. There's a lot of games that Tengen made, and the story behind Tengen and Nintendo is crazily complicated. I'm sure everybody's at least read an article or watched a video about the history of Nintendo and Tengen. It was just a crazy time to be a gamer, and you actually look on here and it showcases a couple other games that Tengen was actually making, like Afterburner and Shinobi and Rolling Thunder. So pretty cool. I never played that, but I did play Clax, and that's okay, but I actually played it for the Genesis. So when you flip the page, the next page is the contents section. And this is pretty much where, if you didn't have enough time to read through this entire thing, you could actually just come right here and it would tell you what all the different sections and what page they were on, so you could actually flip to it real quick, especially if you're at the store with your mom and you didn't have much time and you just wanted to look at the review section. The next page here has an ad for Dragon Spirit for the Nintendo. And this game right here is actually very underrated. I think nowadays a lot of people found out that it's really good for the NES. But one of the coolest things about it, it was actually co-op. A co-op shooter to be exact. So if you ever want to play this game and your friends are over and you're looking for a game to play, definitely play Dragon Spirit because it's pretty good. The next page is a section called Insert Coin. Now, this is a very cool page that I used to read when I was younger. It was actually written by Steve Harris, who is the editor of the magazine. And you look right here, it says Steve Harris. But this is a lot to read, and basically what they're saying right here is that there are a lot of different video game magazines on the market. But what he's saying is this magazine right here is 100% honest. We're not reviewing games that we're making. And basically he's talking about Nintendo Power because, you know, why would Nintendo Power give reviews out that sucked on the games that they were making? So he's saying that there was kind of like a conflict of interest maybe. I don't really think he was saying that, but he was giving you the assumption that, hey, look, we review everything for every system. We just don't concentrate on one system. It was a little pop shot at Nintendo, but it's true. You know, Electronic Gaming Monthly was a jack of all trades. They really got into, you know, the Japanese market and the arcade market, which a lot of magazines, you know, didn't do that. So shout out to them. Another ad right here is Hyper Load Runner, and that was made by Bandai. You know, I didn't play it a whole lot. It's a really hard, like, labyrinth-style puzzle game, and I don't know. I just didn't really like it very much. The next section is called Interface, and this is pretty cool. Back before email, back before tweeting and Instagramming and Facebooking, information and questions that you asked wouldn't just be, you know, answered immediately. This section was the letter section. You could actually write letters to the editor. And there was just a ton of cool questions being asked. And I used to read through these and just be so infatuated on what people would ask. But there's a couple things I want to talk about here. And, you know, if you look on here, they're asking about, you know, the Sega CD. At that time, they didn't know, but they were like, you know, they were asking questions. And actually, they would respond. So, you know, they would answer your questions for you. But that's the thing. You know, you might write a question and then 4 months later, finally get your question answered. So, you know, it was one of those things you just had to wait forever, and hopefully they answered your question and printed it in the magazine. There's one thing that really stands out on this page, and I just thought it was really cool. And it says, right here, it says, give us SFX. In EGM number 10, you said that there was a rumor floating around about the Super Famicom being a 32-bit system, not 16-bit. I was very curious about this and would like to see a large updated review on Nintendo Super Famicom. And, you know, that's just some of the rumors that would happen. But if you look down in here in his response, he says, by the time you read this, we will already have had our first-hand use of the Super Famicom and some of the first games, including Super Mario Bros. World and F-Zero. So, first of all, Super Mario Bros. World isn't what it's called. It's actually just called Super Mario World. And F-Zero was actually F-Zero, not the number 0. So, I just thought that was unique because, see, they didn't know the information. They didn't know what this stuff was going to be called. So, I just thought that was a pretty cool letter. If you ever get one of these magazines, give this section a read because there's some really useful information in it. So we'll turn the page here. So the next section is an ad for Vic Tokai games. And these are just a couple different games that Vic Tokai published, you know, back for the NES. Games like Golgo 13, Conflict, Kid Cool, The Moffat Conspiracy, All Pro Basketball, and Clash at Demon Head. Now, I do know Clash at Demon Head. I know all these, but I did play a lot of Clash at Demon Head and Terra Cresta. So both of those games are fantastic. And this little flyer here is a subscription card that you would send off so you could actually subscribe to EGM. 12 issues for the low price of $19.95. And the crazy thing about that is, you know, every one of these issues were $4 at the store. So you'd save over half just subscribing. But, you know, when I was a kid, my parents were extremely poor. So we never got to subscribe. But it's definitely a hell of a deal if you did. Especially now. Just imagine getting, you know, one of these early issues of EGM for, you know, or for $2 or $3 or $4 on the newsstand. Because some of these issues of EGM go for over hundreds of dollars. Pretty cool. A nice little subscribe today flyer. The next section is the review crew. And this was a section where they just reviewed all the latest games. And the way the layout was there was 4 reviewers. And in this issue, it was Steve, Ed, Simrod, Martin, and Sushi X. Now, over the years, Sushi X was a couple different people. They pretty much would just, you know, sometimes it was Steve and he would just write a different review. And sometimes it was Ed. It just depends. But Sushi X wasn't a character. And, you know, they would just, you know, appoint somebody that review for the month and then they would write the review. So they would basically give it 4 different scores. So you could actually have 4 different opinions on the game and check it out. They actually reviewed Total Recall for the Nintendo. And I mean, look at those abysmal ratings. You know, and it's just hilarious. Steve says, NES video games just hit a new low. Total Recall is a total bore that has substandard graphics and none of the action found in the movie. The whole thing comes off like a bad dream with hardly any fun to be found. And it's funny he says bad dream because if you've ever seen Total Recall, you know what he's talking about. But the next review is fantastic, and it's Journey to Silius. 3 6s and a 7, and that's a pretty damn solid score. Martin says, although they stripped the Terminator title from this game, Silius is going to be one of those sleeper hits this year, like Batman. While the graphics are small in scale, this allows more variety in backgrounds and gameplay. Killer bosses and a jamming soundtrack are high points. And they aren't lying. You know, Sunsoft was known for making really cool games and having fantastic soundtracks. So he was spot on with that. The next page is an actual subscription for Megaplay. And this was basically EGM's dedicated Sega Genesis magazine that you could actually subscribe to. And it was only $10, $9.95. But I'm pretty sure that would only come with 6 issues. So every 2 months, you would get an issue of Megaplay. And it was nothing but Sega Genesis stuff. I wish I could find some of these magazines now because they're incredibly rare. Because not a lot of people sent off for this. They wanted the magazine that had multiple systems. But if you were a huge Sega Genesis fan, well, there you go. Next page, a couple more reviews. And check it out, Swords and Serpents for the NES. And what's weird is there's a 4, a 7, and a 4 and a 7. So wide variety there. You know, 2 of them didn't really like it, and 2 of them thought it was pretty good. Roller Games for the NES. I mean, look at that. There's no way. That game sucks. Anyway, then they reviewed Super Monaco GP for the Sega Master System. A decent score, I guess. The next page here is a company called American Sammy Corporation. And it just showcases a couple games that they published. Michael Andretti's World GP and Acrista's Ring. Now, I played Acrista's Ring. I've never played that. But this game was pretty difficult. And there's tons of levels. If you look right here, it says 125 levels to explore and master. Definitely getting your money's worth with that one. The next page is some more reviews. And they reviewed 2 of the coolest TurboGrafx games. Devil's Crush and Psychosis. Both of them are great. But Psychosis is one of the best side-scrolling shooters for the platform. I mean, look at those scores. all 8s. Just a solid overall game. NEC was kicking ass with the TurboGrafx, but nobody that I knew personally had it. And nobody in the U.S., in my opinion, really, took the ball and ran with the TurboGrafx. It was a system that just, unfortunately, just didn't have the audience, didn't have the sales, and it died, which sucks because the TurboGrafx now is incredibly expensive if you try to collect for it. But when people started going back and actually playing games for the TurboGrafx, they realized that there was a shit ton of awesome games like Devil's Crush and Psychosis. Shout out to TurboGrafx, man. They really got the shit into the stick because they were going against two juggernauts with, Sega and Nintendo. But nowadays, a lot of people love the TurboGrafx 16, me included. So on the next page, you got a advertisement for Tecmo Games. And yeah, of course, they put 2 of their best titles, Ninja Gaiden and Ninja Gaiden 2, The Dark Sword of Chaos. They're known to be pretty tough games, but I love how they put at the bottom, hard to beat. Because that was the thing. Nobody wanted to get a $60 or a $50, Nintendo game, and you would beat it in a day. So Ninja Gaiden was like, you know what? We're going to make this extremely hard on you. You're going to get your money's worth. So, I mean, everybody knows these 2 games, and everybody knows how damn hard they are. So, pretty cool. And the next page is another page of reviews, and there you go, baby. They review Moonwalker for the Genesis. Now, nowadays, people kind of shit on Michael Jackson and this or that, but this game was pretty fun. But if you kind of go back and realize there's parts where he's like opening up closets and freeing little kids from these closets, I don't know. There's just, I don't know. But the game is fun. And there's a little, they talk about it in here, and I think it's pretty cool. So one of them says, Moonwalker isn't as bad as it's hyped up to be. Sure, the music is based off Mickey's biggest hits, and granted, the graphics and animation are extremely detailed, but the gameplay after a while tends to be somewhat repetitive, and you're doing things over and over and over. And, that's true. You pretty much did one thing in that game, and it was kind of repetitive after that. But I think it's a decent game, and nowadays, if you try to buy it, you're looking at like at least $100 for a complete in-box copy, unfortunately. That's what kind of sucks. Here's a review for Wizards and Warriors 10, which I don't understand why they called it 10, for the Game Boy. And this was pretty much... This game right here reminded me of Iron Sword for the NES, but it was basically a, linear 2D action platformer Iron Sword. You just went left to right, but they actually liked the game, so pretty cool. The next page, you got an ad for Solstice, and I remember playing this. It's a puzzle game, but it has like an isometric view. It was okay, but it was extremely hard. But one weird little tidbit of trivia about this is that if you look here, I don't know how good you're going to be able to see this. This was actually supposed to be one of the games participating in the Nintendo World Championships 1990. So I'm guessing that they were going to, this was going to be one of the games on the cartridge, I'm guessing. Obviously, as we know now, that wasn't a true statement, but pretty cool that they were even considering this game to be on there. And what's funny is you can send off for this Solstice Players Pack offer, and you basically, free Solstice Player Pack to the first 5,000 orders received. And, you get some playing cards, some stickers, a little bit of literature, and a scorecard. But how do you send this off? Like, do you actually cut this out of your magazine? I just don't understand it. And it says city, but there's a little bitty line for city. Like, what if you live in Kalamazoo? How the hell are you supposed to fit that on there? And you got to pay $3.50 shipping and handling, I'm guessing. So, I don't know. I just thought that was a little cool ad. The next section is a couple more reviewed games. And they reviewed Batman for the Game Boy. And look at that. Solid scores all around. And here's a little weird thing. They review Clax for the Atari Lynx. This dude gave it a 9. Steve gave this game a 9. It says this is the best version of Clax the home market will ever see. The Lynx not only captures the vertical design of the game, but also has identical graphics, voice, and sound straight from the arcades. Clax is great on the go and never looked better. Now, here's a weird thing. He reviews this a 9 for the Atari Lynx and says, you know what? There's never going to be a better version. There's a Genesis version of Clax that literally looks better than that. So I don't know. I mean, I know it came out a little bit later, but to give that a 9 and just make that bold statement like, you know, this game is just, there's never going to be another version of this game better. I just thought that was kind of ridiculous. Whatever. The next page, you got an ad for Low G-Man. And believe it or not, this game is, I think I don't want to say hidden gem because there's no hidden gems anymore. But this game is actually pretty good. For a long time, nobody kind of gave it a chance, and then people started playing it and realizing that it's actually a decent game. It's a platformer, but it has a unique ability to where you wear an anti-gravity belt and you can jump extremely high, and that's what it's talking about. That's why it says jump real big right here. So Low G-Man, pretty cool. And on the next page, well, before we go to this, we'll go to this. And it's Low G-Man again, and it says Stab. And it's basically a 2-page ad that they split up, just talking about Low G-Man and, you know, talking about the power-ups and stuff. But let's talk about this page right here. One of the coolest sections in the entire magazine. You got the gaming gossip section. And this was actually written by a guy named Quarterman. And he would basically put a shit ton of rumors and write them all out. And this section was just pretty much a bunch of rumors, and they would come true maybe, and sometimes they wouldn't. But now, since it's been 30 years, I know whether these came true or not. But this month, you know, there was a couple in here that was interesting. If you look right here, it says, look for the Simpsons to be invading the local arcade as well as your living room. What could he possibly be talking about? And it goes on to say, while Acclaim will be responsible to bring Bart and the rest of the suburban household to Nintendo and Game Boy screens, arcade powerhouse Konami has secured the rights to this quarter sucker. Look for a game that is similar in ways to their earlier arcade mega hit, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And obviously now we know that they're talking about Simpsons the arcade game. And, you know, there's just some really cool, you know, information in this section. This was one of my favorite things to do when I was younger, was read this section. You know, because this was all the rumors going around. You didn't know what was going on. Check this out. They talk about third-party games that are going to be coming out by Nintendo, and they're going to be showing off at the Japanese show. Games like Ghouls and Ghosts 3, okay, and R-Type 2, and Final Fight, which all are around 70% completed. And what's weird is they say, let's not forget Super Mario World. So, I mean, I don't know. But this section was really cool. And I just thought, you know, when I was younger, I loved reading about this. So this section is called Next Wave. And it has an actual, like, menu up here. So it says Nintendo, Sega, TurboGrafx, etc. And there's an actual different color bar. So if you see this bar around any game, you look over and you know that the red bar is going to be for Nintendo. So on and so forth. So Shadow of the Ninja. Well, let's get into Shadow of the Ninja. Very, very cool game. And one of the coolest things about it, it had 2-player co-op. It was basically, you know, Ninja Gaiden on steroids. You could play co-op with a buddy, and there's nothing cooler than just, you know, ninja slicing everybody up with a buddy, you know, right by your side. One of the coolest games for the NES. Here's a game called Ys Book 1 and 2. Now, I never played this, but it is for the TurboGrafx. I guess if you want a review of it or you want some information on it, just check out Johnny Millennium's review of this, because he loves the Yves books. He loves the Yves series. If you know who I'm talking, if you know who Johnny Millennium is. So definitely go to one of his reviews. And there's a ton of yellow here, and these are all TurboGrafx games. One of the cool ones, Legendary Axe 2, actually played that. It is pretty good. Never played these, so we'll move on. And this is a section dedicated to the Neo Geo. Now, I know not everybody knows what a Neo Geo was, because when I was a kid, I didn't know anybody that owned a Neo Geo. One cool thing about the Neo Geo was it was an actual arcade at your house, and that's how they marketed this thing. And this thing had a price tag to match. If you don't know how much a Neo Geo costed, you know, at launch, consider yourself lucky, because this thing was like $600 or $700 when it came out. Now, mind you, this is back in 1990 or 1991. So, you know, that type of money for a video game system was just unheard of, even if it could replicate arcade graphics in your crib. So, I don't know. The Neo Geo was one of the... And check this thing out right here. It had these big arcade controllers. That's the Neo Geo. But the cartridges were like this freaking big, man. They were huge. I mean, they looked like a shoebox, and they would stick, bam, right in the top of that thing. But I can't lie, the games were fun, and they were almost identical to the arcades. Like, when they ported these things over, I don't even want to call it a port, because this was basically, you were just playing arcade at home. So, we all know now what happened to the Neo Geo, and I just never knew anybody that had one. And the games were like $200 to $300 for each game. And it says right here, you know, the extremely high price of the games themselves, between $200 and $300. And it's funny because it says, even though some sources are indicating that the Neo Geo will come in at $300 in the US, which was completely false. That shit was like $600, $700 or $800 if you got it from these mail-away companies that I'll be talking about later. So the Neo Geo, crazy. It's even hard to find nowadays, especially if you collect for it. One of the best sections in the book, and one of the ones that I always looked at immediately when I got to the store, is the Tricks of the Trade section. These was where they posted all the cool codes and whatever. So, and there's a bunch of different ones here, but I'm just going to talk about the Ghouls and Ghosts real quick for the Genesis. It says, do the invincibility trick. Now, look at this. Reset 4 times, press the A button 4 times. Press up, down, left, right on the controller. Hold the B button and press start. Hold the C button and press start. And then it says, Platty the game. So that's an actual, you know, grammatical error, because, you know, people proofreading these things, they would slip up every now and then. But it's supposed to say, play the game until you get to the right side of the bridge. Pause the game. Hit the A button to turn off the invincibility. Unpause the game. Walk over to the first tree to lure one of the whirlwinds out. As soon as it appears, walk to the left. And as the whirlwind almost touches you, jump over him. Walk to the left, right behind the whirlwind, until the edge of the broken bridge. Jump to the left. You must time your jump so that you hit the whirlwind on his left side. This will knock you back further to the left, and you will land near the large guillotine. Walk a little more to the left, and the game should automatically reset. Press start to begin the game for a second time. Pause the game, press the A button to activate the invincibility, and repeat the above procedure 2 times. This time, when the game resets, everything in the game will be bizarre. If you continue to repeat this procedure, each time the game results will be different. I don't know if this is an actual glitch or what, but what an insane code. Like, who figured that out? Who figured that out? That's what I want to know. Somebody's just sitting around resetting their console, pressing this button, resetting it this many times, starting it, unpausing it. Like, just think about that. It's Ghouls and Ghosts, so that's Capcom for you. So, you know, whatever. The next section here is an ad for Tecmo Games, and One of them is one of the best sports games for the NES, Tecmo Bowl. We have another appearance of Ninja Gaiden 2 and Bad News Baseball. All pretty decent games, especially Tecmo Bowl. That's a cool game. And it actually has the World Wrestling. I didn't really like it too much, but it was okay. More codes. Let's talk about, you know, the maximum lives trick for Ninja Gaiden 2. So they kind of talk about a thing here where, you know, you jump up and get hit by a monster and you can grab the 1-up, and then you climb up and repeat the whole process over and over to get, you know, more lives. So pretty cool trick, whoever figured that out. And one of the cool things about it is when an actual viewer found this, they would actually put their name. So Kevin Grant from Sacramento, California figured that trick out. I always thought that was so cool. So I don't know if people just didn't put their name in because sometimes it doesn't show anything. Or they just, that was, you know, codes that the, you know, companies would send into EGM to post or what. But I really like it when I see people's names and where they're from. And you know, I always wonder, like, what are these people doing now? Like, that's a pretty cool trick. I wonder what Kevin Grant is doing now, you know? So, pretty cool. There's a code for Blazing Lasers and Dino Wars. It's a stage skip. So, pretty cool. Next page is an ad for Battle Chess for the NES. I don't know. Didn't really play it a lot. I don't like chess, so whatever. Next page is, you know, more tips, more tricks of the trade. They have one for Iron Sword, which is a pretty cool trick. It says password modification. If you place the capital N in the 5th position of your password, you will have 3 men to your credit. Like, who in the hell figured that out? I mean, that had to have been a mistake. But anyway, there's a trick for Bonk's Adventure for the TurboGrafx and Rad Racer 2. On this page right here, you have an ad for Phantom Fighter for the NES. And I'm not going to lie, Phantom Fighter sucks. For one, it's fucking brutally hard. I mean, I couldn't beat the first part in this game. To have these quotes like over 100 ghosts and this and that, whatever. I've seen like 2 ghosts because I can't get past the first couple screens. The game's pretty damn hard. And it says, get bigger kicks fighting phantoms. But one weird thing, it says free WCW t-shirt with the purchase of 2 FCI games. Like, why are they I'm thinking they're talking about WCW, the wrestling company. Why would they give away a wrestling shirt just because you bought 2 of their games? I just don't understand that. Now, I know that FCI, I think, made a WCW game. Why wouldn't you just have an ad for, you know, the WCW game and then put it on that? Why would you put it on Phantom Fighter? I don't know. I just don't understand that. And, you know, more codes. One for Castlevania 3. Now, this one's cool. You know, tells you how to do the sound test. Now, everybody knows that Castlevania 3 had some amazing music. So what better way to just sit at the, you know, title screen and pop in this little code and you could just listen to the music because the music was one of the best soundtracks on the NES. And here's an ad for Boxel. It's crappy. It's a box puzzle game. Like, think about that. And it's for the Game Boy. So I didn't really get into it. Now, this is called International Outlook. And this is pretty much everything that's overseas. And all this stuff was shown at the Tokyo Toy Show. And it says the games of 1991. So all these games are going to be coming out in 1991, supposedly. A lot of information in here. But one thing I do want to show and talk about, it shows a picture of Sonic. And it says Alex Kidd could very well be on his way out, as here comes Sonic the Hedgehog. And, you know, like we know now, Sonic the Hedgehog became the pack-in title. And, you know, it changed the Genesis forever. I mean, soon as they started packing in Sonic, man, Genesis blew the hell up. So, super cool. It says right here, Alex Kidd and Wonder Boy have been the main characters in many of our Sega Adventure games. Mega Drive users, however, will soon get a new superhero called Sonic the Hedgehog in a whole new Quest adventure game. And, you know, they weren't lying. That was the turning point. When they started packing in Sonic the Hedgehog with the Genesis, it sold like absolute hotcakes. But this section talks about all that stuff from the show. All right, I'm just looking at the time here. This is going to be a long video, so I hope you do enjoy it because I love talking about this stuff. And here's some more games that are going to be at the show. Check it out. Ringside Angel. This is like a girl fighting game. Only in Japan. You know, it just talks about different games. And this is an ad for Game Mania. Now, what I want to talk about on here, Nintendo games were incredibly hard to get back in the day. You couldn't find them. So there would be times where, you know, NES games were just sold out all the time. So what companies, these fly-by-night companies came out, and they called them mail-aways. And basically, you would just call these people and give them your, you know, credit card, and they would send you these NES games. But I'm sure, you know, you had to pay a premium. You had to pay shipping, and I'm sure that they were getting the games cheaper and charging a little bit more because, you know, $54 for Afterburner, $54 for Shinobi. So there was just, you know, these fly-by-night companies, and you would fill out this little thing here, and you would add it all up and give them your total, and then however long later, they would send you the games in the mail. But one little cool thing I noticed on here is the NES Batman. Look at that. That's not the cover art for the game. So I'm thinking this was actual, like a promotional, you know, cover art, and they ended up changing it and just putting the, you know, the Bat logo on there. So I guess at one time that's what it was supposed to look like. And these were a dime a dozen. There was a ton of these that were popping up, and that's how a lot of people bought NES games. You just couldn't go to the store and buy them all. Some, you know, stores didn't carry certain games, and this was the only way to get them. So I see why these things existed. And more from the Tokyo show, talking about all the cool stuff coming out. Look at that. Batman was a disappointment when compared to the Mega Drive version. What a quote. And more from the show. Now, like I said, another ad for, you know, mail-away video games. Video Game Excitement, featuring the latest Japanese games. So there was games that, you know, you couldn't get in the U.S. You could actually call this number and get them sent to you if you lived in the U.S. So it was a pretty cool idea. This was the only way, like I said, for a long time to get certain games, especially imports. And here's an ad for Lock and Chase. I don't know. It's kind of like a Pac-Man clone puzzle game, I guess. I didn't really like it too much. Now we get to the cover story, Mega Man 3. And it pretty much shows all the levels and some of the, you know, Robot Masters. It talks over here about when it's going to come out, the number of players, the difficulty, the amount of levels, and so on and so forth. And here's another ad for more games. And check it out. You can, you know, buy Thunder Force 3 for $75 or Batman for $80. And then there's one cool thing that I do want to show, and it's right here. It says Nintendo 16-bit. We will only receive a limited number of these systems in time for Christmas delivery. So call today to secure your Super Famicom and order great games like Super Mario World 4. Only $299.99. And if you know, that's $100 more than it was when you went to Toys R Us in the U.S. to get one. So that's how they made their money. Now, the next page talks about a game called Game Ground. This is for the Master System, and I just didn't have much experience with the Master System. I was a huge Genesis fan, but I was more of an NES fan, so, you know, I never had a Master System. This is a page talking about Game Ground, and it says, play as different people in the game. Search for more powerful weapons. But look at these screenshots. Like, they zoomed in on so many of these back in the day. It was so hard to see, you know, sometimes what they were going for here. That's just how it was. Technology wasn't as good as it is now. So some of these pictures are kind of primitive looking. But I want to kind of not talk about that because I want to talk about this. Now, this page is just so simple yet so satisfying. The Genesis does what Nintendo campaign, and this was huge for Sega. And it says Genesis does, and then when you flip the page, it says what Nintendo don't. Introducing Afterburner 2 and Super Monaco GP. This single ad right here just blew me away when I was young. The awesome black, you know, Sega killed it with the Genesis, man. It was such a good console. And, you know, this campaign right here literally made Nintendo nervous as hell because there was a new kid in town and they were literally putting arcade games on home consoles and they were damn good. Just like Afterburner and Super Monaco GP. Such a cool thing. One of the best marketing strategies / gimmicks they ever did was this what Genesis does what Nintendo don't campaign. And I'm just glad I was around when this was happening because it's one of those things that it just never happens now. You'll never see Xbox start taking shots at the Switch or the Switch taking shots at an Xbox or PlayStation or Sony or none of that. But back then, all bets were off, man. People, it was an actual madhouse to be in the video game industry. So, super cool ad. And the next page says Genesis does it all. And it says, you know, right here, arcade games, sports games, action games, strategy, and it just talks about all the games that they have because that was the thing. Genesis was like, hey, we do it all. We got arcade games coming home. We got great sports titles, which they did. We got awesome action games like Thunder Force 2 and Mystic Defender. We got strategy games like Columns. And we got coming soon like Wrestle War, Dick Tracy, and Spider-Man. So they were definitely throwing some bangers out. And I love the Genesis. So such a cool campaign slogan. And here's a little write-up about Super Monaco GP for the Sega Masters, which I just think that's kind of like terrible placement because right here you got it for the Genesis and it looks great. And then the next page, you got it on the Sega Masters and it's kind of like, eh. I just think that's bad, you know, placement because you're trying to hype up the Genesis and the next page you're showing, you know, one of the titles that you just said was amazing and people might get confused and think this is the Genesis version. But anyway, so check this out. It's a 2-page ad for Psychosis for the TurboGrafx 16. One of the coolest shooters for the system. It still holds up today. It's great today and it was great back then. And like I said, they reviewed it in the issue. And so pretty smart to put the review in the issue and talk about the game in the same issue. And on the next page, another banger. One of the best shooters ever made, in my opinion. And it was on the Sega Genesis. Thunder Force 3. It's so damn good that it's one of the games that I bought complete in box, luckily, when it was pretty affordable. Because now it's extremely expensive because it's a great game. So definitely check out Thunder Force 3. Next page is for a game called Whip Rush for the Genesis. Another shooter. And I like how it like shows the level layout. That's just pretty cool. And it shows all the different stages. Another cool shooter for the Genesis, man. The Genesis had a ton of great shooters. And they were showing them in this issue. Now here's a section called Atari Adventure. And this is all the new games coming out for the Lynx. And I just think that's funny because, I don't know, I just wasn't a big fan of the Lynx. It was supposed to be awesome. For the price that they costed, I can see why, because these were pretty expensive. I mean, it was a color handheld back in the early 90s. It was not going to be cheap. And another little advertisement for different companies where you could buy video games. It's so crazy because nowadays you just get on your phone and you can get on eBay and buy one and have them send it to you. But back in the day, you had to write them a letter, you had to call a number. So I just thought that was crazy. You know, getting games through the mail, it was just, it blew me away as a kid. Here's an ad for Super Glove Ball. And the first page says, they told you it was strange and powerful. They told you it would put you in deep. And then I'll flip it. I'll go back to Turtles in a second. And then it says, they told you, but you didn't listen. Super Glove Ball. So that's a 3-page ad for Super Glove Ball. Like if there was one game that I didn't think would have a triple-page ad, it would be Super Glove Ball. Anyways, here's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan for the Game Boy. Pretty cool game. It's a side-scroller, big sprites. Pretty cool game. I actually have it complete in box. One of the few Game Boy games that I have complete in box. So, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan. Now, it says, do you play video games? And it says, then you must subscribe to Electronic Gaming Monthly. And it's just another ad that you can, mail away for and get your 12 issues for $19.95. That's 12 incredible issues for 50% off the cover price. And one thing I didn't know when I was young is that, the publication company for EGM was actually based in Lombard, Illinois, which is a little far from me, but I figured it would be in like California or something. So, pretty cool. And this little thing right here, I don't understand it. It's completely blank. And then it just says subscribe to the best. That's it. Like, I don't know. And here's a cool section called Screenplay. Now, this is where they would, talk about, different movies that were out. And they would always tie it in with the games because it's a gaming magazine. So it kind of talks about Predator. And one hilarious statement in this, it says, the hero in Predator 2, Danny Glover, is every bit the badass that Arnie was. They said ass in a magazine. That would just blow me away if I would have read that as a kid. And 2, these people are saying that Danny Glover was going to be just as badass as Arnold Schwarzenegger? What a ridiculous statement. That's not even close at all. For one, Arnold Schwarzenegger was an actual badass. Danny Glover was not. And Predator 1 was actually badass. But Predator 2, I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think Predator 2 is near as good as Predator 1? I know I don't. They talk about Star Trek, Alien vs. Predator comics. Just pretty cool, man. So this section is called Screenplay. Here it is again. 2 huge ads for mail-away video games. Here are some examples. Ask for a free catalog with thousands of more prices like these. And, if you didn't have your game on here, you had to call these dudes up and be like, hey, send me a catalog. Maybe you got the game I'm looking for. And you could get hint books and the tip line and all this stuff. So, and if you look on here, it actually has some NES games. And I just think it's so cool, the prices on these. Can you imagine, look on here, $54.99 for Starship Hector. Oh my God. Can you imagine paying $60 for that game? That game's terrible. Just another section of mail-away video games. Now, this is a cool section. It's called the Top Score. This is a club that basically you would write in your score or send a picture in, and they would put your name in the magazine next to whatever game that you were playing. And shout out to these people because some of these scores are pretty damn impressive. Playing Contra and getting 6,400,000, that's pretty damn tough. I just thought this was a cool section. Look at this Tetris score, 307,000. That's no easy feat. Trust me, that's a pretty decent score even now. Like, I don't think I've ever got 300,000 on Tetris. And it just talks about all the rules, like, hey, you got to send them in before this time and this and that. Some of these are the same person on different games. Like Jim Hernandez. He kicked Contra's ass and he kicked Double Dragon's ass. So pretty cool, man. Shout out to all these people that actually took the time and played these games to get these high scores. And you can actually get a t-shirt and stuff if you get featured in the magazine, which I thought was cool. And they gave you like a little pin too for the National Video Game Team. So you'd have like a little patch. Pretty freaking cool. And right here it says call this number for up-to-the-minute high score rankings. So, say you're playing, Afterburner and the top score is 9,700,000. You could call this score and be like, oh, I got to call this number to see if this score has been beat. Like you were extremely, wanting to know if this score actually went up or the score that you had was still the #1 score. So they would charge you a fee for that. It's just genius, really. Okay, and one of my least favorite parts of the book, I don't know why they did this, but they did. And this is called the Game Over. And this would basically show the ending of a game, which I just don't think that's a good idea. Some of these games were brutally hard and the reward was seeing the ending. And you could just flip to the last page in EGMs and look at some random ending to a game. This month, it would be Bonk's Adventure. So, I don't know. I just think that's kind of lame and just a terrible way to end the book. On the back page here, you got a game called Kickle Cubicle, made by Irem. Pretty cool game. It's not very pricey, but it's up there a little bit for the NES now. But it is actually a decent game. And on the back, you got an ad for Image Fight, which is a pretty fun shooter for the NES. So there you go. That's, EGM number 14, September 1990. Hopefully you guys didn't get bored because of how long this read-through was, but I think they're all going to be like this. And I really enjoy just sitting down and looking through these because this is something that will never be done again. You'll never have magazines again that talk about video games. And, it's just a cool little time capsule that you can open up and it automatically takes you back to September 1990, right? And just see all the cool games that were coming out and ones that just never, saw the light of day, even though they were talked about in the magazine. So I appreciate you guys watching this long if you have. If you did, if you made it this far in the video, in the comment section, I want you to put your favorite Genesis game from the first 2 years that the Genesis was out. Because I'm very curious to know, how many people played the Genesis before Sonic the Hedgehog. Because that's when it really blew up. So I wanna know. So when I go to the comment section and I see you talking about the Genesis games that you liked, I'll know that you watched the whole video. And if not, that's fine also. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully I'll do this again. And if you did enjoy this, make sure to put that too. I love hearing if you guys like something that I'm doing. And if you guys want to see more of these, that's no problem because I have the entire run of Electronic Gaming Monthly. So there will be no shortage of material that I can review. So thanks for watching. And until next time, y'all, keep on reminiscing, baby.
Well, there you go. That's my extensive look at Electronic Gaming Monthly issue 14 from September of 1990. So many great memories of looking through these old magazines. And I wanted to take a ton of time to just go through it thoroughly and bring all you guys along on the journey with me. So I really appreciate you watching. If you like these type of things, I know it's a crazy long video, but I wanted to really get in depth and just talk about the issue. So if you like these type of episodes on these read-throughs, make sure to put it in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If not, that's fine. Who gives a shit? Just sit back and enjoy the videos. And until next time, keep on reminiscing, baby.